Anime games over the last few years have all followed a similar formula. You play through the story beat for beat while controlling its iconic characters, but for the first time ever, Bleach Mirrors High promises a completely new experience. This one is built around an original story featuring entirely new characters designed by Kubo himself. And it's also a story that Kubo is heavily involved with, and one that appears to have major implications for the broader canon of Bleach. But is this the game that Bleach fans have been waiting for, or is it just another throwaway gacha mobile game with a fresh coat of paint? This is exactly what we're going to be finding out within this video. Here we'll be discussing everything that's been revealed so far for Bleach Mirrors High, from the gameplay and combat systems to the original character reveals, the customization features, and how Mirrors High could be directly connected to the upcoming Hell arc of the Bleach manga. This is one video you absolutely do not want to miss, because I genuinely believe that Mirrors High could be the first step towards Bleach's future, because the 1000-year Blood War arc anime is wrapping up now after all. While Mirrors High could be linked to the Hell arc, do you know which individuals will be appearing within the Hell arc of the manga? These are the people who are subscribed to the channel. Only 20% of the people who watch these videos are subscribed, so if you enjoy the content and want to see more Bleach videos, then hit the bell icon and subscribe button for even more content just like this. Bleach Mirrors High is without a doubt the next big thing for Bleach. Ever since the first IP registration leak, the trail of information surrounding this project made it clear that it was going to be something special, and with every new reveal, the impression has only grown stronger. Despite being a mobile game, it boasts a level of imprint from Kubo that could potentially rival the 1000-year Blood War arc anime. He has personally designed multiple original characters while also playing an active role in shaping the story which unfolds throughout the game. Kubo's involvement also makes the game's setting far more significant because it is the only Bleach project set immediately after the events of the 1000-year Blood War arc. As you can see from this promotional image of Bleach Mirrors High, it's an original story that takes place after the 1000-year Blood War. Become the protagonist and begin your journey as a Shinigami. So it's a bit of a visual light novel with some incredible gameplay and all new characters mixed in. More importantly, Mirrors High appears to feature almost every major character in the Bleach universe, unlike Hunt for Your Own World, which focuses on a relatively small group of characters, or the Hell arc, which takes place a decade after the 1000-year Blood War arc. This game offers a first real look at what the world was like in the immediate aftermath of Yhwach's defeat. This alone makes Mirrors High essential for any Bleach fan, but setting and story can only carry a game so far. Any lore expansion or narrative development has to be delivered through its gameplay and mechanics, and this is where things start to get a little spotty with Mirrors High. From everything we've seen so far, it's clear that the game takes heavy inspiration from Dragon Ball Legends, the real-time action RPG that has dominated the gacha space for almost a decade. This is a promising sign because despite its success, no game from Bandai or even competing developers has ever seriously attempted to replicate the formula of Dragon Ball Legends. This puts Mirrors High in a very strong position. Much of the groundwork has already been laid by Dragon Ball Legends, giving the developers nearly 8 years of successes, failures, and player feedback to learn from. Instead of building a system from scratch, they have the opportunity to refine one that has already proven itself. What's even more interesting is that this project is coming from Bandai itself. Rather than experimenting with a new formula, the developer is adapting one of its most successful gameplay systems for a Bleach title. This says a lot about the confidence that they have in the franchise, especially considering they've never chosen this approach for any of the other major IPs under their umbrella. And if you know, Bandai Namco pretty much has the rights to create games for almost every anime and manga. When you actually look at Bleach Mirrors High, the confidence becomes even more apparent. Every reveal of the game suggests that they are pulling out all the stops, and in some areas they may even be pushing beyond what Legends established. The clearest example of this ambition is the game's character customization. The game introduces us to two new protagonists named Shirin and Shirain. I believe that they are going to function similarly to Gudako and Gudao from Fate Grand Order, essentially serving as gender-swapped versions of the same character. Whichever one you choose ultimately becomes the main protagonist of your playthrough. Unlike the protagonists in Fate Grand Order, however, their appearances are fully customizable. Players can personalize everything from their facial features and body type to their outfits, all the way down to the design of their zanbakudo. The zanbakudo options are especially impressive. Players can choose from different blade designs, sheaths, hilts, guards, and even multiple unique visual effects surrounding the weapon itself. The level of personalization goes far beyond what was possible in Dragon Ball Legends, where the main character was largely limited to alternative costumes inspired by existing Dragon Ball characters. Mirrors High takes a completely different approach. Instead of recycling outfits from the source material, it gives players access to original designs which allow their character to feel like a part of the Bleach universe. This alone is already a major step up from Legends. The only question which remains is whether if these customization options will have any direct impact on gameplay itself. If they do, then that would add an entirely new layer to the experience. Before we get into the gameplay, we have to address the elephant in the room. This is, after all, a gacha game. This means character acquisition will be tied directly to its summoning system, and based on everything we know so far, it doesn't exactly sound generous. Characters are currently ranked from 1 to 4 stars, with 4 stars serving as the highest obtainable rarity. However, data miners have already discovered evidence of a 5-star rarity within the game files. My guess is that this will be the game's equivalent of Dragon Ball Legends Ultras or Legends Limited characters. Based upon the information we have now, players will need to perform up to 200 summons, which guarantees the featured 4-star character. 4-star units have a base rate of 2.5%, while the featured 4-star sits at just 0.5%. This means that every time you pull a 4-star, there's only a 1 in 5 chance that it'll be the featured character. Now this is pretty rough, especially compared to Soul Resonance, which guarantees that any SSR pull is the featured character. 3-star characters have a base rate of 22%, while the featured 3-star has a rate of just 2%. This means each 3-star pull has roughly a 1 in 11 chance of being the featured character, which is also very stingy. Everything below that falls into the lower rarities. I highly doubt that they'll have much long-term relevance in the meta, so they're not really worth focusing on. What concerns me the most is how this system will handle duplicates. Dragon Ball Legends has always been an extremely dupe-heavy game, requiring players to pull the same character multiple times to fully max out their stats. At one point, it took 17 copies of a single character to reach the maximum limit. The introduction of the Double Z power system eventually reduced this number to 9, but that's still an absurd amount of duplicate pulls, especially considering Dragon Ball Legends also has lower summon rates than Mirrors High. Overall, the gacha system for Mirrors High is definitely a cause for concern, even if it still appears to be more forgiving than Dragon Ball Legends. The biggest unknowns are how many duplicate copies will actually be required to max out a character's stats, how long banners will be lasting, and how much premium currency the game gives out for free. Those factors will ultimately determine whether if this system ends up feeling fair or excessively punishing. When it comes to gameplay, Mirrors High appears to stay fairly close to the Dragon Ball Legends formula while taking a few interesting liberties of its own. Players build 3 character teams, with each member possessing their own health bar and a unique main ability that grants special effects during battle. Characters can be switched in either by directly tapping the icon or through the use of specific card effects. Naturally, these switches can't be used recklessly. Once a character leaves the battlefield, players must wait through a 10-timer count cooldown before they can be brought back in. Anyone familiar with Dragon Ball Legends will immediately recognize the similarities here. Character movement also appears heavily inspired by Legends. Players can move toward opponents, retreat from them, or circle around them in either direction. As a result, movement isn't tied to a traditional free-roaming battlefield. Instead, the enemy effectively acts as the central point around which combat is navigated. Combat itself revolves around cards. During battles, cards are drawn from a deck based on the card affinities of the characters on your team, and they are activated simply by tapping them. From what we've seen so far, every character has access to 2 exclusive attack cards known as Arts 1 and 2, alongside skill cards, special cards, and link arts cards. Arts 1 and 2 serve as a character's core offensive options. 1 typically focuses on close range combat with a zanbakudo, while the other appears to function as a projectile-based attack. Rukia's Arts 1 card appears to be Sokatsui, while Shirin appears to use Shakaho. This suggests that each character will possess their own unique card set with different properties and effects. If this is the case, the potential variety in combat could be enormous. It's already a major step beyond Dragon Ball Legends, where most Arts cards are simple variations of generic strike attacks and ki blasts. Then we have skill cards, which allow characters to perform more specialized techniques with unique effects. Rukia, for example, appears to have access to Hainawa, allowing her to bind opponents for a limited period of time. I can already imagine how frustrating that could be in a PvP, and if Mirrors High follows the Legends model closely, PvP will likely become the mode where players spend most of their time, so dealing with teams built around binding Kido. There's also the Link Arts card, which allows a character to perform a combo attack alongside a selected teammate before switching that teammate into battle to finish the sequence. This is one mechanic I'm still somewhat unsure about because on the surface it mostly appears to be as an additional source of damage and a method of swapping characters. But that said, if my theory is correct, it could have much deeper strategic applications depending on how the mechanics work. It may allow players to bypass normal switch timing restrictions and bringing teammates before their cooldown has fully expired. If this is possible, then it could open the door to some incredibly interesting plays. Although if that interaction exists, I have to imagine the developers have already considered it. Special cards appear to function as a character's ultimate attack. These can take the form of either powerful melee techniques or devastating ranged attacks designed to deal massive damage. The closest comparison would be the special move arts cards from Dragon Ball Legends. Beyond that, we also have mechanics such as the Soul Dive system, which allows the entire team to unleash a coordinated assault on a single target. All three characters participate in the attack before the final blow is delivered by the character who activated the ability. This appears to be Mirrors High's equivalent of Dragon Ball Legends' Rising Rush mechanic. Overall, these gameplay mechanics have incredible potential and provide the perfect foundation for a deceptively deep but yet highly enjoyable combat system. Combined with the game's surprisingly extensive character customization, I think Mirrors High has everything it needs to stay engaging for a very long time. This is assuming that the developers continue making the right decisions, but gameplay is only half of what makes Mirrors High so interesting to me. The real selling point to myself and other Bleach fans is definitely the story. The story of this game occupies a really interesting place within the Bleach timeline. It appears to be our only glimpse into the immediate aftermath of the 1000-year Blood War arc. This becomes even more apparent when you look at the roster. Most of the characters we've seen include Renji, Rukia, Byakuya, and Toshiro, and they are all based on their 1000-year Blood War appearances. This alone gives the game a level of pseudo-canonicity that no previous Bleach game has ever had, something Kubo himself has even hinted at in interviews for the game. Like in this message from Kubo about Mirrors High, he states, "For this project I've been involved from the kickoff meeting and worked on the title, scenario and character designs. As for character designs, I got so excited working on them and I ended up doing more than what was requested. For the logo design, I wanted to come up with something that resembles my style. I made it simple but yet something that will leave an impression the moment you see it. I sat in on the audition and also took part in the recording sessions, so the characters turned out just as I imagined. The story is partly related to the main manga, and I hope you look forward to that too." Then there's the original characters Maiko Tokishima, Giro Hando, and Naru Jurina. They were all created by Kubo himself, and they could very well appear in the Hell arc whenever the manga returns. They are complete wild cards, and I'm genuinely excited to see how they fit into the wider Bleach world, especially since they are fellow recruits alongside our new protagonist. It also seems like Ryunosuke will end up taking on a mentor role for them, which puts him in a position that we've never really seen before. It actually reminds me of the relationship between Nappa and Charlotte in Dragon Ball Legends. What's even stranger is that despite featuring the 1000-year Blood War versions of many characters, the game also features much earlier incarnations of character designs, like Uryu from the Substitute Shinigami arc, or Yoruichi wearing her Soul Society arc outfit, and even Orihime from the same period of time. This immediately raises the possibility that time travel or some other temporal phenomenon could play a role within the story, much like Dragon Ball Legends, which used multiple timelines to justify bringing together characters from across the franchise's history. Out of everything we've seen so far though, two elements stand above the rest: Ichigo and our protagonists, Shirin and Shirain. Ichigo because I believe he may actually end up serving as one of the game's villains. Shirin and Shirain because of the symbolism surrounding their characters. Before you call me crazy, I'm not talking about our Ichigo, I'm talking about an Ichigo from another timeline. If you remember the first trailer, we see the 1000-year war version of Ichigo holding the Hogyoku while staring down at the protagonists in a surprisingly ominous way. As terrifying as the idea of Ichigo wielding the Hogyoku already is, I think the protagonists themselves may end up being even more important than that. Kubo has always been a writer who places tremendous importance on the names that he gives his characters, manga chapters, and even their abilities. Once again, we can see that same level of intention in the naming conventions of this game. Starting with the title itself, Mirrors High immediately invokes the symbolism of reflection. The idea is then quietly woven into the game's two protagonists, Shirin and Shirain, in an incredibly clever way. Both of their names are deeply connected to the concept of death, beginning with the fact that they both share the phonetic prefix shi, which is quite literally the Japanese word for death. But the way their names are written is even more fascinating. Shirin uses the same kanji that Kubo chose for the Shiba family, creating a direct connection to Ichigo. Shirain meanwhile uses the same kanji found in Sode no Shirayuki, establishing an equally direct connection to Rukia. The second kanji in Shirin's name is referring to the will-o-wisp and representing the spirits of the departed. The second kanji in Shirain's name refers to a father's gravestone, symbolizing the body of the deceased. Their surnames are much simpler but no less interesting. Migishima uses the kanji meaning right, while Sonari uses a Nimben derivative of the kanji meaning left. Together, their surnames represent the two opposing directions that naturally mirror one another. Taken together, these details suggest several fascinating possibilities. Shirin and Shirain may be reflections of Ichigo and Rukia, while simultaneously serving as reflections of each other. Their association with the right and left is especially noteworthy because those opposing sides have always carried significant thematic weight throughout Bleach. Things become even more interesting when you look at their introduction in the trailer. This is where we see them lying parallel to one another. The composition is strikingly similar to the fish shown at the beginning of the Hell Arc one-shot, where one fish is said to thrive only after the other dies. In much the same way, choosing one of these two protagonists effectively condemns the other, allowing your chosen character alone to grow. That interpretation is reinforced by the trailer, which speaks of the awakening of a single soul, not the two that we choose from. Their names also carry direct connections to Hell. Shirin's association with the will-o-wisp is a direct link to the spirit energy from Hell, while Shirain's connection to a father's gravestone is a direct connection to the Konso Reisei, the ritual that ultimately sends souls to Hell. None of these connections feel accidental. Kubo has always been far too deliberate with symbolism for so many parallels to exist by coincidence. That creates an enormous amount of narrative potential between the unexplored period following Yhwach's defeat and implied time-related anomalies, the possibility of an alternate Ichigo serving as an antagonist, Kubo's original characters, and protagonists who may themselves be directly tied to Hell. This game has the potential to become far more significant than anyone initially expected. While I'm undeniably excited about this game, unfortunately I wasn't given access to play the closed beta, but some individuals have already clocked in a few hours, and here are their initial thoughts. This post here speaks about their initial review of Bleach Mirrors High after playing it for 3 hours. So they're comparing it to other gacha games in terms of enjoyability, gameplay, gachas, and animations. The base of the game is amazing, but they feel like it's missing a lot. The biggest thing is real-time PvP is not a thing. The PvP arena is just against bots, which definitely sucks. But again, I mean, this is putting a bit too much of a high expectation on a closed beta test. Of course, it's not the full game that they are playing. And again, the review continues saying that there's not much content. Again, it's a closed beta you're playing. Getting level up materials is 3 times daily, and besides that, I'm confused on what to even use stamina on, as the individuals finished all of the story. Again, this individual is complaining a lot about the lack of content within a closed beta. But in general, I mean, the game looks really cool. I mean, looking at the front load screen, then the list of characters here, and then the customized character here that they have created. Here are more thoughts giving feedback in the Bleach Mirrors High beta. So the real strengths of the game, gameplay is on point, it's less dynamic than Dragon Ball Legends, but it's way more strategic. They feel like all the characters are strong and playable, from 1-star to 4-star characters. Character customization system is a banger, story mode is fun with awesome cinematics, multiple difficulties, and a cool 2-team tower. Now, in terms of the beta, the gacha system was really toxic it seems. There's no pity on the permanent banner. No pity transfer to limited banners, currency changes every time, you gotta save up 200 pulls at once or you risk losing everything without getting the character. Rates and resources, there's a 2.5% chance for a 4-star, 1% on rate up, pull resources are very scarce and it's really scary for the future of the game. So it does seem like PvP is coming to the game, but a big downside is the 5-hour 300 min cooldown on your 3-character team after a match. So the beta only featured 1 story chapter, and will absolutely need a classic tower roguelike and bosses at launch. Growth is too restricted with 3 EXP tries and 1 mastery try per day. On the perf side, crashes and too many loadings. This is classic Bandai Namco. In short, it features excellent gameplay which is let down by a very rigid economic model for now. So yeah, hopefully the game does improve upon the gacha mechanics, and some of those cooldown timings are also reduced. Some more thoughts: tried Bleach Mirrors High for a couple hours. What is good is that it has dedicated story and cutscene, new characters actually are fun to watch. You're also able to dodge too. The gacha rate isn't that bad as people think apparently. What is bad is that the user interface is slow and it's still unoptimized. Now, as people got access to the closed beta, we were introduced to this amazing intro scene from Mirrors High, animated by Studio Pierrot. Features Ichigo versus Rukia. So as you can see, the intro starts off in the Serete as we have these blue flames here. As we rush into the Soul Society, we see Ichigo standing there, and he appears to be facing off against Rukia, and this is giving very similar feelings to Bleach Movie 3 Fade to Black. Rukia says, "Ichigo, do not interfere," and then Ichigo's responding, "Interfere with what, Rukia? What's going on?" So again, we know very little context as to why these two are fighting. Rukia says, "If I explain myself, would you join me?" So yeah, appears to be a reason. So Rukia is able to summon this flame-like blue Kido as Ichigo cuts away through it, rushing towards her. How am I supposed to know that if you won't tell me anything? Again, none of us know anything either. Why on earth are they fighting? Again, there's some really cool visual effects here. The animation here is stunning. I cannot believe that Studio Pierrot put this much work into an intro video for Mirrors High. So Rukia's like, "Further dialogue is pointless." Soda no Shirayuki. Again, that was a bit of a weird cut. Some people are saying that this video is suspiciously like AI. I mean, I don't think that it's created by AI. I just think that it has some weird janky cuts between scenes. Like that here, that was really weird. So Rukia acts Soda no Shirayuki as Ichigo's Zanpakuto is blocked by her. Again, really cool particle visual effects here. Rukia fires off more of her Zanpakuto abilities. Ichigo, your fall will herald the end of the Serete, no of the 3 worlds. So that's really strange there. What on earth could she mean? What the hell is wrong with you? Yeah, it's very reminiscent to Bleach Fade to Black. So now, shockingly, it appears as though she's activating her Bankai Haka no Tagame. Ichigo's like, "Rukia, no." Haka no Tagame, the entire environment is going to be affected now as she activates her amazing Bankai. There you go. It looks like she's not pulling any punches here in this fight. Wow. Fine, damn it, bring it on. Again, weird transitions. It seems like, again, this has all been put together with gameplay in between. Ichigo's like, "I'll stop you. I will not be stopped. I will carve open a path to the future." So it's weird. It feels like Rukia might be being controlled by someone, or it might be an alternate timeline where Ichigo is the enemy. Okay, so Ichigo's now charging up here. He's left with no choice. Again, really cool visual effects. He's activating his Bankai in return now. That's really mysterious. I mean, what on earth's going on here? Bleach Mirrors High. Again, there's a possibility that Ichigo may well be the villain here, like we've seen in this trailer shot here where he is holding the Hokyoku in his 1000-Year Blood War outfit. Yeah, Shirin and Shirain are there looking at him in the wake of the 1000-Year Blood War. Your story as a Shinigami begins. While the story of Bleach Mirrors High clearly has tremendous amounts of potential given the direction it's taking, I'm still concerned about just how far the developers will be willing to commit to it. The biggest concern isn't about the story itself, it's more about how it's being presented. The game uses a visual novel style of storytelling, and I worry that approach may feel deeply unengaging to a large portion of the Bleach audience. Games like Fate Grand Order have proven that this format can successfully deliver incredible stories, but Fate fans are already accustomed to visual novels because they've always been a major part of that franchise. Bleach fans, on the other hand, have primarily experienced the series through the manga and more so the anime. So going from that to static character portraits accompanied by walls of text could be a difficult transition for many players, naturally filtering out a significant portion of the fanbase. But again, if we get some really cool cutscenes like the ones that we're seeing on screen, then it could alleviate a lot of these concerns. What's crazy is that this game promises to include some really important lore additions. Mirrors High risks including a lot of important lore additions which could be overlooked by a lot of fans who just don't engage with light novels or visual novels like this. Look at Can't For Your Own World, how many people took the time out to read those light novels? But contrastingly, just how much important lore information was included within those light novels. It could be a similar case for Mirrors High. But again, I am very confident that things could look up, especially if we get these kind of visual cutscenes, which help to deliver the story content, so it's not just a lot of static images on walls of text. As I just hope that Mirrors High finds the right balance. I wanted to tell an engaging, meaningful story without placing the franchise's biggest reveals behind a medium that much of the Bleach audience may never experience unless those events are eventually adapted into something more accessible like the Hell arc of the manga or even an anime adaptation. Even with all of these concerns, this is still one of the most promising Bleach projects that we've seen in years, and I'm incredibly excited to see where it goes from here. And also, have you seen some of the amazing art that's been data mined from the game? We have amazing portraits like these that you're seeing on screen, with these characters that have been drawn so impressively on model, with these incredibly unique poses, with amazing line art, colors. It's just so refreshing to see Bleach depicted in these amazing portraits. I've said it before, but this is some of the greatest artwork that I've ever seen from Bleach, and it features within Mirrors High. So what are your thoughts on Bleach Mirrors High from everything that we've spoken about so far within this video? Did you get access to the closed beta? If you've put some hours into the game, let me know how your experience was by leaving a comment under this video. Who's your favorite original character that we've seen? Is it Shirin or Shirane? Or do you like the 3 other original characters designed by Kubo, Naru Jurina, Giro Hando, or Maiko Tokishima? Do continue the discussion in the comments, and lastly, thanks for making it to the end of this one, and I look forward to seeing you in my next Bleach video.
A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.